How did you waste your 20s? F professed to not being a naturally nice person, who put me down for superstitious nonsense like my astrology sign and my place in the family birth order, who lost their temper at the drop of a hat, A at my sense of self-worth with a hammer and chisel, and then unceremoniously announced that they no longer cared about our friendship after I traveled to help them celebrate their college graduation. I watched them get their diploma and they turned their back on me. I had no idea how to make friends or socialize, so I spent the time and too much dollar at bars, clubs, parties and after parties, not to mention gas, parking or cabs. It wasn't until my 30s that I began adventuring, which was 100x more rewarding, no hangover, and I made real friends that I still have to this day. Don't party, go camping, backpacking, kayaking, rock climbing, play dodgeball, trampoline dodgeball, kickball, and that you can travel other countries and continents on a budget that you plan well. I didn't exactly wasted my 20s. I do feel I wasted my teenage years. I didn't have any teenage fun. I was a quiet person, and I also had health issues that didn't allow me to do much, and I only sorted them out in my adult years. I didn't have a boyfriend until I was an adult, and I was very naive and immature about things. By 25 I was engaged twice. I was working a lot and trying to catch up with university, and trying to get ahead of my peers because I felt that in other areas I was behind. I did get ahead, so no complaining there. I went to university. I was horribly unhappy with it but determined to finish. I should have just worked and focused on my own happiness than trying to be something I'm not. I spent the latter half of my 20s trying to travel abroad as much as I could afford to. I wandered around Europe, Russia, Japan, Taiwan, NZ and other places. I never had much money. I was happy just lazing on the beach or walking around foreign cities, absorbing the vibes. It was the best time of my life. But a lot of people considered it a wasteful way to live. Trying to have a baby never happened. Lost 10 years focusing on nothing but my next attempt. At nearly 50 though, I can honestly say that I had to do it, so I could eventually have no regrets today. We tried everything except donors and adoption. Late husband wasn't on board with that, and I understood. I'm grateful that I didn't have to worry about the child when husband died in a horrific, drunken crash 11 years ago. Child would have been somewhere around 10 years old when husband died. Thankfully, I only had to worry about me. I didn't waste my 20s. Hell yeah, I missed opportunities and wasted money. Dealt with addiction and mental health. None of it was a waste. Got to live with my best friends for a few years. Built a wonderful relationship. Learned a lot of skills job hopping, collected hobbies and tried new things. Through it all I had a great time, made good friends, developed social skills and honed in my personality. Maybe I will look back at this part of my life and think it was wasted, but right now, I can't think of a better way to spend it. Took me a long time to gather the courage to reach out and get into therapy. I always distrusted psychologists and psychiatrists because my mother said hers were useless and annoying, so I thought they just didn't work. See my psychologist and later had a psychiatrist added to the service. I realized that the difference was that my mother never really believed she needed the help, so she didn't want it while I did. I wish I'd done it sooner. Would have spared myself some years of misery. Worrying too much about a relationship that was never meant to be forever just was too stupid. Young and naive to pass up great opportunities for the sake of being close by, just to keep a relationship. Don't ever put someone ahead of your career path, especially when you're young. That's all I can say. You'll spend your life trying to figure out what to do with your life. And now I'm not suffering by any means. I could have and should have done better for myself. I personally don't think any of us waste our time, and definitely not our 20s. 20s are 100 for experimenting with things and seeing what works for you, so that you can hopefully continue down that path in your 30s. And no path is linear, so you just need to constantly make sure you're seeking enjoyment and happiness. I found what creates those things for me has changed over time, and I'm totally cool with that. I thought I was gonna be a mum, for sure, and that it didn't make sense to have student debt just to have a kid. Really wanted to be a mom all my life. Suddenly I don't, so now and without a degree or career, and things are financially harder than they had to be. To my young 20-something sisters, get a certification or license. Don't have to go to school, but make sure you can be dependent financially or contribute in your 30s. I'm 29 and my kids are 11, 6 and 4. Just do the math, lol. I love them, and my kids are some of the only ones from their friend groups growing up in the same house as both their parents. I got what every man wants. 3 beautiful, happy, healthy children, and a wife who I love very much and I am very proud of, who returns that in kind. It was worth losing my 20s for what I have now. Out of community college to play video games full time. Got kicked out of parents' place. Lived with a crazy lady for 3 years. Got yelled at a lot for small things because I was playing my games all day. I still have not done a lot because I've been addicted most of my 20s. I'm 30 now. And am finally comfortable now and video game free. Living at home looking after my family cause I was brainwashed by my late parents. I should have just left and never came back. I'd have a home, cars and a husband by now if I'd have left. It was taken away from me because they wanted some checks from the government. Don't ask, still want those things, but I don't think they're gonna come now. I 21 FAM currently wasting mine by spending all of my days off watching YouTube videos in bed. I don't have friends, I don't go out, I don't date, I go to school. But I'm very behind and thinking about dropping out. I just started seeing a therapist, so hopefully that'll fix something. But right now I've kinda given up on life. Hold up, it's a work in progress right now. Not that for real, when I turned 20 I didn't do jack shit except for abusing medication, smoking weed, and jacking off in my room in my parents' house. I'm 21 now, and I'm studying, living on my own, and saving up money, so I'm actually very happy with where I'm at right now. I tried to become an actor by doing all the wrong things. I went to a prestigious acting school and spent my 20s attending workshops and courses. In my 30s, I pivoted to working on the production side and realized many of the successful actors I knew got there by attending the right parties and events. Being obese and not allowing myself to live my life because I didn't deserve it and wanted to work on myself before I do things like wear cute clothes, date, etc. Now timelines are passing fast and I'm living in existential dread knowing that I'm never getting married ever at this rate. Kept moving back to my decaying small town hometown. Small town mentality is a real thing. Wasted about 10 years with this, and now every day I try to accomplish something so I can stay out of that mentality. And if I don't accomplish something I sit around anxious about my wasted days. $30,000 in student loan debt with no degree. I recognize that it's my fault, but the pressure from my high schools and my parents to get a 4-year degree didn't help. I'm now a retail store manager saving enough to get an associate's degree that I got halfway through before COVID derailed it. Ed video games hiding in my room. Stopped going to therapy. Didn't take risks because I was too scared of everything. Stayed at dead-end job for 6 years. Didn't learn to invest until 26. Don't be me. I worked an average of 10-15 hours a week through my 20s. I went to lots of parties and live shows and had an active sex life. 0 regrets. It makes being old easy because I did everything I wanted to do in my 20s and still was able to buy a house before hitting 30. Currently wasting 20 now by just being too tired busy to do shit. Lol for the few slowpokes that keep replying to my comment. I work and go to school full time. I'm not just sitting around withering away. I was referring to doing things outside of those obligations. It's a matter of opinion. I spent most of the time traveling and picking up whatever work I could find rather than establishing a career. Those experiences are unique, and I hear from so many people that they could never do the same thing. Now, still, I have regrets. I was doing really well until 25, lost someone to suicide and due to a toxic abusive relationship right after, piled on top of the guilt-loaded grief. Lost the next 7 years before I came out of it enough to function. Then I kept landing in abusive workplaces, haha. Thinking that I had no time to waste, got a master's, started a non-profit, and worked full-time in a new career. Only came home to change clothes. So I missed many family events and my family getting older. There are a lot of family photos that I'm not in. I saw how others did and made sure not to. I married young and started pooling resources early. Bought a house at 24 with pooled income, and maxed out work for 1K contributions. I say this not to brag but for advice to those entering this phase. I didn't take enough pictures in my 20s, so now a whole decade is lost to time. A lot of friends and memories. Moving to different cities, relationships, multiple phones and computers later with no backups means all these moments are gone. Smoking weed, I'm still not anti-pot, but man, a person can waste a tremendous amount of time just chilling and being high. I later in life heard it said it makes it okay and fun to be bored. I understand why that can be bad now. Spent most of my 20s in college and serving in the Navy. Adjusting to civilian life was really hard. They don't teach you real-world skills in college and the military. I was walking through life at 30 like how a teenager would. Medical school, residency, fellowship. Missed out on so much time with family and friends for over a decade because I was never around. Couldn't be there for family or friends that needed me because I had too many obligations. Remaining in a toxic relationship for far too long. Being depressed and not getting help. Not trying to move forward career-wise due to the previous items. Add alcoholism somewhere in there. That's the highlight reel. Too much drinking. Didn't take uni, personal development, work seriously. I wisened up in late 20s. I often think what I might have achieved by now if I wasn't a drunk mess from ages 18 to 28.